What's happening, guys? Today we're going to be going over shipping plans. So specifically, how do you prepare your products to ship them to Amazon's warehouse? So the first thing we're going to go through is exactly what you need to prepare before even creating the shipping plan. And then we're going to dive into the shipping plan step by step. So you know exactly how to do this. You can even follow along. And I'll show you the difference between case packed shipments and individual product shipments. And then we're going to also go through labeling products. So which labels need to go where, and how do these codes actually speak to Amazon? How does Amazon know what I'm sending? How does Amazon know when to ship what product when a customer buys from your listing? So we're going to go through all of that, and by the end of this you should be very clear on all these codes and how to send your own shipments. So step number one is to have an active FBA listing. You have to have an FBA listing. So when you actually create a listing on Amazon for the first time, it's often going to be an FBM listing, fulfilled by merchant. It means you ship from your house when someone buys from your Amazon listing. But you can convert that to FBA, and I'll show you how you can do that here. So just go into Manage Inventory on Seller Central and find that listing that you want to change to FBA. Another little pro tip here is you can see that this has a box where we can input a number, and that's just a quick way to know this is FBM, because if we can put in the number of available units, that means we have that stock at home or at our warehouse. So that is a quick way to see, okay, this is FBM, this is obviously an FBA listing, because we can't put the quantity in there. Amazon will tell us what's available in their warehouse. So that's just a quick way you can tell FBM from FBA. But here, if you're converting FBM to FBA, go to that FBM listing, click the edit drop down, and then you're going to click change to fulfilled by Amazon. And pro tip number 2 here is that you can see if you click the drop down, you can also copy listing. And so what some sellers choose to do is they copy the FBM listing. So now they have 2 FBM listings, and then they change the duplicate one to FBA, just like we went through now. In that way, for the same ASIN, for the same listing, you have 2 fulfillment channels: FBM over here, which you can fulfill from your house or warehouse, and FBA over here, of course, which you send inventory to Amazon for. And the reason some choose to do that is they like to have the FBM option as well, as perhaps backup or sending additional units to customers or compensating disgruntled customers, etc. But now you have your active FBA listing, and that's where you need to be for this part of the process. So another question sellers often ask is, how does Amazon know which listing I'm sending inventory for? Like, how is this all connected? Or even once my listing's live, if a customer buys from my listing, how does Amazon know which unit to send them? And this all comes down to codes. So we're going to move on to step 2 here, is to download the FNSKU. So there is one code that you can download from your FBA listing before even getting to the shipping plan stage, and that is the FNSKU, which stands for Fulfillment Network Stock Keeping Unit. And if we break that down a little bit, Fulfillment Network really just means FBA. So in other words, this is just an FBA SKU. It's just an FBA stock keeping unit. So let's jump on screen. I'll show you exactly how you can get that FNSKU nice and early so you can send it on to your supplier, and well before even starting the shipping plan. So even before you create that shipping plan, you can actually come to your listing and you can click the drop down and you can click on print item labels. And when you do this, you can see it opens up this page where you can print item labels. And this is instantly going to give you that FNSKU, which is going to physically go onto this product. And remember that physically links it to your digital listing, to your ASIN. So this is a quick way you can get it ahead of time so that you can have your supplier or manufacturer apply these physically to your products during manufacturing. And they don't have to do this after manufacturing. So this is a good way to save time. But you can also get this code during the creation of the shipping plan, which I will show you. So the FNSKU identifies every unique FBA item. So every single unique item in the FBA warehouses has an FNSKU physically affixed to it. And ASINs are linked to those FNSKUs. And so when I say the word ASIN, I want you to think digital listing, online listing. And when I say the word FNSKU, I want you to think of a unique physical product. FNSKU, physical product. ASIN, digital listing. And so in this way, every digital listing is linked to unique physical products through these codes. Every ASIN is linked to certain FNSKUs, and that is exactly how Amazon knows which listing you're sending products for, and it's also how Amazon knows if a customer buys from your listing, your ASIN, they know which physical products, which FNSKUs to send out to that customer. And so that's how the whole system is linked. ASINs or listings hold certain FNSKUs which are physically on those products, and that's why it's so important you have your FNSKU on all of your units. It goes on every single individual unit. Step 3 is to send the FNSKU to your supplier. So because this code needs to go on every individual unit, it's really beneficial if you get this to them during manufacturing, rather than getting it to your supplier once they've manufactured. Now they have to go through every unit and do it one by one. If they can do it during the manufacturing process, it usually speeds it up a lot. Another thing some sellers do is they actually work the FNSKU into the package design. So say you have like a customized packaging box with all your marketing material on it. You can actually have the FNSKU worked into that package design if you wish. If you don't want it to be like a sticker on the poly bag, etc., you can actually have it on the packaging design so long as it remains visible for scanning as soon as it arrives at the warehouse. Now another note here, if you don't want to download it early as we went through, you can also get the FNSKU during the shipping plan stage. So it's not a problem if you haven't done it yet, or if you're ready at the shipping plan stage, you can just download it during the shipping plan and then send it on to your supplier. Now pro tip 2 here, because we're talking about before actually shipping the products and doing things early, is to also ask your supplier, can they equally pack your shipment? So can they case pack your shipment, which really means, can you pack the same number of individual units into our big carton boxes, and you put the same number of the same nature of units in those boxes. So let's say we're sending our wood carving kits into Amazon. We could ask our supplier, could you please pack the same number of units in every big cardboard box? In this way, we can have a case packed shipment because we have the same nature of units in every box, and we have the same number of those units in each box. And so when we ask them to put the same number of the same nature of goods in each box, we're essentially saying same FNSKUs in this box and same number of those FNSKUs. And in this way, later we're going to be able to create a case packed shipping plan on Amazon, which in my opinion is a favorable shipping approach. But this is totally not needed. If you can't make that happen, don't worry. But it is something you may as well try and do. Now you are going to hear a lot of different terms like cartons, cases, etc. But it's actually really simple. The big cardboard box that holds your individual units, that is always called a carton, except when you have the same number of the same FNSKUs in each of those cartons. When that happens, Amazon calls that carton a case. So that's the only time, but they're the same exact thing really. Just when it's the same nature of the same number of units, it's called a case rather than a carton. Now the reason you'd want to do a case packed shipment is because it has faster receival at Amazon's warehouse. Instead of opening every single carton, Amazon actually looks at the first case and they say, okay, this is a case packed shipment. So we open the first box, we scan one FNSKU, and we know, okay, there's another 49 in there. There's 50 here, and then we have another 10 boxes. So we have 500 of this exact FNSKU, this exact nature product. So that's why it's a little bit faster. So obviously really beneficial for your simpler shipments where you're sending one type of unit. Or even if you're doing, let's say, 2 variations, you could just do 2 case packed shipments in the same way. But then if you do have a more complex shipment, shipment or with all different units, or perhaps you're testing like 10 different products, then of course you want to use individual products. It's going to be much harder to case pack. And there's nothing wrong with that, and we'll jump into that in a moment. Step number 4 is to get the shipment details. So at some point, your supplier is actually going to complete manufacturing. And at this point, you need to get your products from them to the Amazon FBA warehouse. But before you start that shipping plan, which is going to be that connection, you want to get a couple details from them. And it's really 7 pieces of information you want to get from your supplier / freight forwarder in some cases. Number 1 is the number of cartons, the big cardboard boxes. Number 2, especially if you're doing case packed, but in all cases really, is the number of units in each of those cartons. Number 3 is the weight of those cartons. 4 is the size of those cartons. 5 is the shipping company or shipping line. Are you using UPS? Are you using TNT, FedEx, etc.? 6 is the ship from address. Very often your supplier's address, their manufacturing plant address. And 7 is the estimate ship date. The least important, but it's good to just have that. I've seen that being asked for in shipping plans now. And step number 5 is to create the shipping plan. So once we have all of those details, we can actually initiate the shipping plan. And here's what you want to do. Once you're in the manage inventory page, you're just going to go to the product which you want to send inventory for. Now remember, you may have closed this listing. If you ran out of inventory and you're trying to preserve ranking, then you're going to see relist here. And this is not going to matter so long as there are not stranded units. Something that can happen is if you close the listing, now you have units come back into stock. Let's just say they were units that were being tested by the warehouse or units that were returned by customers. And so this number goes up in available. And what happens then is those units are stranded because your listing is closed. You closed it. So in that case, you will have to reopen the listing just for this duration of creating the shipping plan to be able to send replenish. You can see here that has not happened. We're still on 0. So even if closed, you're going to be able to do this as long as you don't have stranded units. You're going to hit the edit drop down and then send replenish inventory. So you can see on this page here, we have the ship from address. This is going to actually be your manufacturer's address or your supplier's address. So here you can see we have individual products selected because here we can change to case packed. These are the only 2 ways you can ship to Amazon. Individual products, as we're on here, allows you to send in units in any configuration. So if you have 70 units in one carton, 50 in another, etc., you can use individual products really easily. It's also very effective if you're sending different SKUs. So maybe you have a red version and a blue version and a green version. Individual products is going to be the way. Additionally, that's going to be good for different products all being sent in one shipment. But we can also change to case packed. So if you do continue with individual products, later in the shipping plan, you're going to specify the number of units in different cartons, the different SKUs, etc. But in the case where you make sure that each carton has the same number of the same type of units, you can use case packed shipments. So we're going to change to case packed so you can see how this looks. You can see it's a little bit different. Here, we have to input the units per case because remember, they have to all be the same. So every one of our cartons in this case is going to hold 50 units. So we're going to put that in there. So the big cardboard box holds 50 individual units. And then here, number of cases. So how many of those big cardboard boxes are we sending? Well, in this case, we're actually sending 10. And so of course, 50 in each big cardboard box, that's 500 units in this shipment. So that's accurate, and you're going to see the total units over here. So once you've selected that, you can click on continue. So at the top here, you can once again see that we are on case packed, and there is one SKU in here, one stock keeping unit, because it's a case packed shipment, all the same. So over here, we now have to choose who prepares this shipment. This is who applies the FNSKU to your product. Remember, the UPC doesn't have to go on the product, but the FNSKU has to physically go onto that product. So you can have Amazon do that at a fee for you, or you or your manufacturer can do that. If you or your manufacturer do it, you're going to select seller over here. Seller applies all labels. Seller prepares everything. Then there's also prep guidance, which you do have to select, and you're going to click choose category, and then from the drop down you can choose whether your product is fragile or glass. Maybe it's a baby product, an adult product, etc. Here we have no prep. There's no prep needed on this. It's not a specific or special product. So select that and click choose. So at this point, it's again going to tell us it's a total of 500 units. There's no preparation cost because we're not having Amazon prepare the units with FNSKUs, etc. We are doing that, and we can click continue. So over here again, it just tells us who's labeling. It's of course us, the seller, or our supplier. Remember, Amazon doesn't care if it's you or your supplier, just that you are having that done. So that's what you're going to select here. And then here, this is the second place where you can get the FNSKU. Remember, you are labeling or your supplier is labeling, so you need those codes. If you didn't download them from the listing earlier, remember, from edit, print item labels under manage inventory. If you didn't do that, you can also get them here. You click print labels for this page, it's going to download, and you're going to be able to send those on to your supplier to affix to the products. Remember, if it's all the same SKU, it's one product, then this label is going to be exactly the same on every one of those units. Something I always do as well is I note down the size Amazon recommends here, and I also send that through to the supplier. Now in this case, I know my supplier already has the labels for this product, so I'm not going to send it to them again. Remember, your FNSKU is linked to your ASIN, so that's never going to change unless you put that product onto like a new listing. This is not a label that's going to change, but it is good practice to keep sending this to your supplier just to make sure. And once we click on continue, you can see you can name your shipment here, and I do recommend you name this. Name it your product's name, the amount you sent, and the date. That way you're going to be able to see, okay, this was this shipment, just to make it easier for you, because this is a lot more difficult to read or understand when you go back to it. Here we can see it's 1 SKU, 10 cases, 500 units, and this is going to be shipped to Coventry in the UK. So we already know which warehouse this is going to be going to, but don't send them this yet. We'll get the full address in a next step, and we can approve shipments. So here we see a summary. This is your FBA Shipment ID just under here, and you want to also send this on to your supplier. We've now created the shipping plan, so we can click on work on shipment. Now at the top here again, you can see the FBA ID over here. I recommend you send that to your supplier. Also, here is the ship to address just below here. Send them this exactly like this as well, so they know exactly where this is going to be shipped to. If you're using a freight forwarder, send this to your freight forwarder. This is exactly the warehouse where your goods need to go to. Then just down here, you can see small parcel delivery. I'm shipping individual boxes, or less than truckload. I'm shipping pallets. So in this case, we're going to go with SPD. We're shipping those individual cartons or cases, and we're going to be using UPS in this case. Remember, we asked our supplier for that. So you can just find the service that you're using and select that. And moving to step 3 here, how will the shipment be packed? Well, it's not all in one box, it's multiple boxes. So that's good. I like to use the web form over here, and you can see it's really easy. Units per box, well, we know it's 50 in that configuration. The number of boxes is 10. That gives us 500 units. Each one weighs 15 kilograms. Remember, we got this info from our supplier, and each of the boxes measure 45 by 35 by 46 centimeters. Again, we got this from the supplier. Now we can confirm. And this is the next label you're going to have to print. This does not go on the individual units. This goes on the big cardboard boxes, your cases, or cartons if you're doing individual products. Okay, it goes on the big boxes. Again, I would note the size here and send this to them. And then what you're going to do is print box labels. That's going to download, and you want to send this to the supplier as well. One note on this is not the same on every box. In this case, we have 10 boxes. This will be 10 unique labels. So box 1 needs label 1, box 2 needs label 2. It's very important it's placed onto the boxes like that, and that they don't just put, say, label 1 on all of them. These are unique labels, and you will have the same number of labels as you have boxes. And once we've done that, we're going to click on complete shipment. Once you've completed the shipment, you will see here the number of boxes that you're sending, and each has an area where you can fill in a tracking number. And step number 6 is to manage and track these shipments. So here's how you want to do this. This tracking number may not be available yet. It might be available as soon as your goods ship, but it is also often the case that it's not available until you get those goods to the destination port. So if you're shipping from China to the US, only once it actually arrives in the US can you get these tracking numbers in a lot of instances. So just keep that in mind. It's not a major problem, but input these when you do get them. And remember, your supplier or your freight forwarder is going to give you these. Once you do put them in here, just click on Save All. Now, something you're going to do even before the tracking numbers is, as soon as your supplier or freight forwarder tells you they have actually shipped the goods, you are going to mark as shipped with this button over here. So I also want to show you how you can work on multiple shipments or get back to the screen if you need. But you can see here, return to shipping queue. So here you can see a whole lot of shipments, and this one is ready to ship. Here's the status of all of these. Then here, tracking IDs missing, of course, because we have not put those in just yet. But this page is really easy to get to. You can simply go inventory, manage FBA shipments, and you can see that brings us to the exact same page. So very easy. And then right over here, you can work on this shipment. You can either click on the title, or you can say track shipment over here, and you can see it brings us straight back to the screen that we were on, and track shipments just next to this. Here's shipment events, which is brand new, by the way. But here, track shipment, you can drop those in when you're ready, and then save all. You would have already marked as shipped as soon as that gets shipped, and then your inventory is ready to be received by Amazon. And so once you've done all of that, you're really waiting for Amazon to email you and say your freight forwarder has checked in their trailer and we're busy receiving your units. And at that time, when the units are being received, the available inventory on that listing is going to increase. And when this gets to a reasonable number is when you want to reopen that listing. So say this gets to like 30-40 units, then we're going to relist this listing. It's ready to sell again, and that way we decrease out of stock time as well. And pro tip number 3 here, I think, is if you get multiple warehouses, so Amazon says you're going to be sending to Dallas and also to California and also to New York or something like that, that's going to really split up your shipment. Now you have to have your supplier or freight forwarder ship to 3 different places in like 3 different batches, really expensive and just really a mission. So what you can do is, what I like to do is simply delete the shipping plan and try again. And usually by at least the 3rd time, and it really doesn't take much time, you're going to get a single warehouse you can ship to. But there is another option if you're really struggling with it. You can come into your settings in Seller Central, come down to Fulfillment by Amazon, and then on this page you can see inventory placement option. And you can click on learn more here. You can see mine is on default on this account, but here you can actually pay a small per item service fee, and it will always give you 1 warehouse to ship to, and then from there Amazon will split it up across the country. So if you're really having an issue with it, which I don't think you should be, but if you are, that is another option for you. And happy selling. If you guys enjoyed this, please give me a like below. I really appreciate that. And thank you guys for all the support lately. Please drop a comment below. What is your biggest shipping gripe? I'd love to hear, and I do read all the comments, so drop them below. If you have future content suggestions, also drop those below. I do interact a lot there, and I love hearing from you guys. In fact, your comments led to the creation of this little shipping series. The last video we did was also on shipping. I'll link to that up here for you as well. But as always, I hope you guys are making some very good progress. Drop any questions below, and I will see you in the next video.